Blessed day and welcome to Morning Brewed. Morning Brewed is really my daily um, wellness reflections and check-in that I do when I get up and I make myself a cup of brew. And you can see this is my cup that is very well used, but it's my favorite one. And during my morning brew, whatever that might be, I um, ponder and reflect. And I'm now just getting into a place where I'm beginning to share it. I know I have some already up and posted, but I'm beginning to share it more intentionally in the hopes that anything that I'm going through might be able to benefit someone else in their journey. So today, I was reflecting upon my anxiety, which I have had for as long as I can recall. And as a child, I had all kinds of anxieties and phobias. And, I was called Scaredy Cat, Baby, and so many things that I look back on now and I'm like, wow, and we don't have a context or we don't have any awareness of mental health and wellness. We become mislabeled. But I had so many things that I did in the midst of to try to manage my anxiety, even as a young child. I sucked my thumb, which is self-soothing, until I was 9, which is beyond the developmental stage for that. But, and I was teased and tortured for it. I would have attacks of screaming and crying over things that people felt was little. But and of course I'm self-diagnosing, but I know that I'm a highly sensitive person. Things affect you way more profoundly. And if you have anxiety, I don't know how that's tied to being an HSP. I don't know, but it's tied to this HSP. And, I began to, as I grew up, try to mask it, with more, even though they were destructive, more socially acceptable behaviors, more socially acceptable destructive behaviors, drinking, partying, unhealthy decisions in my life. In addition to, even from being a child, just eating my anxiety away. And as a result, I've been obese for most of my life, and I'm working through recovery in that, because that became one of my coping mechanisms that then turned into an ingrained addiction. But anyway, so I'm always aware of its presence. I'm just, as I'm learning and growing, learning how to manage it in ways that does not leave me too debilitated. But I can remember one of the practices that that really began to turn the tables on my anxiety. And that was the what is practice. Now, I know a lot of people who deal with anxiety and fears and always about what if, and for me, everything was a what if. What if I get on this plane and it explodes? What if I get on this elevator and it gets stuck? What if I go outside and I get on the road and I drive? And I mean, believe me, I have an arsenal of what ifs still. It's just that now I reined it in before the what ifs wrote me and dragged me down the road. And when I first happened upon this practice was right after I had a lot of stresses in my life. Anyway, major events they call stressors. I had just moved to a new state, and when less than 2 months after that, the towers blew up in the community that I was always in. It was my church was literally blocks away, so I would spend a lot of time there. And of course, everybody's anxiety, I'm sure, went through the roof during that time, just in general. But because for me, it had such a personal connection, and the people that were directly affected were people that I had close relationships and associations with. And I can remember just, oh my God, I wouldn't want to leave the house. I had to go to work. I didn't want to get on the train. I didn't want to be in a crowd of people. I still don't like crowds. I still won't do crowds. I don't care what anybody says. But, just normal crowds, commuting. I couldn't do it. And so many things suffered in my life because of that. And it went on for weeks, months. And I could feel like always my heart was racing at top speed. My head was vibrating. My body was just always shaking. And after months of dealing with that, at some point I just said, you know what? It would be a mercy if a bomb dropped on me right now to get me out of this situation. I can't do this anymore. I can't live in this state of being in my mind and my body, And so I began to say, you know what? Let me just take myself away from the what if and deal with the what is. And I began to just say, okay, in this moment, guess what? You're alive. In this moment, there's so many things that are working for you that are out of your control. So many times we focus on the things that can work against us that are out of our control. And it's like, but your heart is beating. The blood is flowing through your veins. You have nothing to do with that. You can't stop it. If you go, now I don't want it to flow through my veins. Guess what? Your breath is going in and out of your body. In this moment, you have your full health. You're able to walk, to talk, to hear, to see. In this moment, no matter what your financial situation may feel like, you have food in the refrigerator. You have access to food. You know people who have food, who have access to food. Right now, you have a roof over your head. Right now, you have clothes on your back, more than enough clothes. You have access to more than enough food. You have shelter. You are right now in this moment living in abundance, and miracles are abounding within you and around you. And as I started to take my focus off of all the catastrophic variables of what if, I began to focus on the very real present, what is. And I had to keep doing this, of course, because, habits will keep drawing you back in that place. Your mind will be like, oh, and be like, wait a minute, come back. Breath, blood, heart. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, move your legs, look around, look up. Okay, you're got a roof, got a floor. Open the refrigerator, there's food. Your bank account, even if it's $1, there's something in it. You have a bank account, And I had to keep refocusing. But the more I began that practice, the more I noticed that my anxiety was easing. And the more I had a place to refocus that wasn't unhealthy. And that helps me to this day. To this day now, even with my anxiety, I get ahead of it. So I do things like this. It's like, okay, you wake up and there's like a million thoughts. Before you even entertain them, get up, make yourself a cup, of soothing beverage, warm soothing beverage. Take some deep breaths. Write down why you feel grateful in this moment. Take stock of all the things that are happening in this moment apart from your intervention, that are sustaining you, that are promoting your health and your wellness and your well-being. Focus on the miracle that you are right in this moment. And so this is Morning Brewed is really one of those tools and mechanisms, but I'm opening it up in the hopes that you too can recognize the miracle that you are in whatever situation is occurring in your life, no matter what may be happening that might be out of your control. And some things are in your control, but you just have to slow your mind down enough to take it in and be like, you know what, I can do something about it. Instead of sitting here awfulizing it in my mind, when I calm down, let me take one step. It may not resolve it immediately, but it's one step towards empowering myself to move forward. So I just want to share that with you for what it's worth. I hope that you find it to be a blessing as I have. And be well and be blessed.